Nothing's gonna go back to the way that it was. Not really. But it'll get better.
Ever since exploding onto the scene back in July of 2016, Stranger Things has become one of the most popular franchises in the history of Netflix originals. And while Season 4 has been delayed for quite some time now, there's no doubt that the show's interesting selection of characters have made it one of the most anticipated releases of the coming year. But which Stranger Things characters are considered to be the best and worst in the series? Well, whether you're a fan of the show or just want to know more about the characters who have made this science fiction title so successful, stay right where you are, as we're about to explore the most beloved and hated characters of Stranger Things. So strap yourselves in and get ready to enter the Upside Down, as things are about to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of the new videos we post. First up on our list, we have Erica Sinclair, who just so happens to be portrayed by the young and adorable Priya Ferguson. Although she is the newest character to make viewers laugh out loud, her introduction and character arc in Season 3 of the franchise has made her one of the most beloved characters within the Stranger Things universe. And this isn't because people consider her to be a great person. In fact, it's the direct opposite, with Erica constantly making fun of her brother Lucas and his ragtag group of friends. Since Eleven and the team have saved Hawkins quite a few times now, we often forget that they're supposed to be the underdogs of the series. These heroic nerds thus need a character to put them down by telling them things exactly as they are, which is why the showrunners decided to let Erica loose on everyone. Suffice it to say, it's her carefree attitude and capitalistic intuition that has slowly but surely made her into the lifeblood of the Stranger Things side plot, and we can't help but hope that she gets more screen time when Season 4 of the franchise finally comes along. Number 2, Steve Harrington. Next up, we have Steve the Hair Harrington, who is expertly played by the charismatic Joe Keery. If we could give any one of the characters an award for making the most meme-worthy content, it would definitely be Steve, with the majority of his facial expressions being priceless reactions that we can't help but reflect on back at home. The sum of his success can be seen in his redemption arc, which is by far one of the greatest comeback stories in recent television history. Remember how much we used to hate the guy when Season 1 first kicked off back in 2016? All he really cared about was what people thought of him and for how long he could control Nancy. He also hit Jonathan with a pretty mean right hook, for which we still haven't forgiven him. That being said, the Steven that we now know is different from the terrible person who we were introduced to in Season 1. Before Robin came along, he had some of the most entertaining and unlikely friendships with Dustin, whom he would have never been caught dead hanging out with earlier on in the franchise. And we believe it's this redemption arc, on top of his humorous attitude, that makes Steve one of the most beloved characters of the franchise. Number 3, Jim Hopper. Speaking of incredible redemption stories, Jim Hopper, as portrayed by David Harbour, finds himself in the next position on our list. Since the Stranger Things universe was pretty much dominated by family throughout its runtime, Hopper always seemed to be a bit of an outlier. When we were first introduced to him, he gave the impression that he really didn't care much for the town of Hawkins, even though he had the position of sheriff in the town. Slowly but surely, he started to grow on us though, showing his more vulnerable side when Eleven needed a place to stay. It was his position as an adoptive father that really warmed audiences up to him, as well as his tendency to say things as they are. Our hearts were then broken as Hopper, after falling in love with Joy, gave his life to save the town from imminent doom, only to appear once more in Russia as seen in the Season 4 teaser trailer. How Hopper survived, we have no idea, but fans can't be happier at the moment, especially after hearing that Season 4 will be diving into his history in quite a bit of detail. In other words, it looks like we're about to discover a lot more about our favorite sheriff, only increasing the cries of anticipation that still surround Season 4 of Stranger Things. Number 4, Joyce Byers. Although Winona Ryder can be pretty strange when it comes to the real world, there's no doubt that her Stranger Things counterpart, Joyce Byers, deserves the next spot on our list. You see, when Joyce was first introduced to fans, everyone knew that she was going to take the position of a stereotypical television mom. And while it may be true that she cried often and complained about the slow-moving search for her missing son, she took things a step further by never giving it up. She pressed Hopper until he felt like he needed to look deeper, which essentially set everything in motion. Joyce also came up with the intelligent idea of communicating with Will through the use of Christmas lights, which was absolutely brilliant, as it is precisely because of everything she has been through, the viewers love to support her. Not only did she spring back from the loss and then discovery of her missing child, she also lost the love of her life twice. At no point did she let the terrible changes in her life get the best of her, which makes her such a breath of fresh air when it comes to the topic of independent women on television. Suffice it to say, we can't wait to see the joy in her eyes when she finally realizes that Hopper is still alive. Number 5, 11. It's obviously no surprise to see the face of the Stranger Things universe, 11, towards the top of our list, as she is brilliantly played by the popular Millie Bobby Brown. Although Elle was mute for the majority of season 1 of the franchise, she truly found a way to connect herself to the viewer with some intense eye contact and emotional responses. The fact that she is practically superhuman also helped her in this regard, being the only person who could stop the Demogorgon in its tracks back at the hospital. After making the sacrifice play, Elle earned quite a bit of sympathy from the audience, which was unfortunately lost a bit when season 3 came along. We know 11 wants nothing more than to be a teenager, but her treatment of Hopper and strange relationship with Mike really did have the effect of fans turning against her character to a certain extent. That being said, we expect to see her come into her own in the coming season, which is sure to bump her up the list. Number 6. Dustin Henderson. Dustin Henderson, on the other hand, as played by Gaten Matarazzo, has always been one of the sweetest characters within the Stranger Things universe. He hasn't always been the most agile, and has on many occasions landed himself in trouble, but there's no doubt that he is one of the bravest souls to ever set foot in Hawkins. In fact, if it wasn't for Dustin's attitude towards life, we doubt that Steve would have had such an incredible redemption arc. We also couldn't help but smile widely when we saw him dancing with Nancy at the dance. That being said, the boy can be a bit of an idiot when the script calls for it. Sure, it might have been sweet if he had adopted a snail and called it Dart, but this new pet of his was clearly a young demigorgon. It might have even been the same slug-like creature that slid its way out of Will's throat towards the end of season 1. But we believe that Dustin was able to redeem himself by giving us a duet of the ages with his surprisingly real girlfriend. Let's just hope that he sticks to puppies and kittens in the future. Number 7, Max Mayfield. When Max Mayfield was first introduced, as portrayed by the immaculate Sadie Sink, we all thought that she was going to be a simple love interest for one of the boys. That is, after all, what the showrunners tried to do with 11 for a while. That being said, Sadie actually became a part of the group and played a pretty intensive role when it came to the saving of the town. She also carried herself pretty well through the runtime of the first and second season of the franchise, becoming a bit of a symbol for girls who consider themselves to be both quirky and unique. It isn't often that girls who skateboard or play video games are represented on television, which is what we believe made Max so darn popular with the viewers. She isn't what you would expect the epitome of the girl next door to be, but in time, she grew on us and showed us her value. It is to a large extent the same journey we went on before seeing the value in Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and Will, once and for all making her one of the boys. Number 8, Mike and Lucas. When it comes to both Mike Wheeler, as played by Finn Wolfhard, and Lucas Sinclair, as portrayed by Caleb McLaughlin, we thought that it would be best to place them both as number 8 on our list. Although we might catch some flack for saying this, the two friends are basically the same person when it comes to Hawkins. They are both incredibly geeky and have trouble when it comes to their respective relationships. Simply put, their misunderstanding of females is both hilarious and annoying, and to a certain extent, reminds us of what it felt like to be an awkward teenage boy back at school. Either way, we preferred them when they weren't going through this awkward phase, and hope we get to see them improve on their friendships when the next season comes around. Number 9, Will Byers. Last but not least on our list of beloved Stranger Things characters, we have Will Byers, who was brought to life by Noah Schnapp. Although Will was absent for a large portion of the first season and found himself possessed for a large section of the second season, he was still able to get quite a big fan base out of his appearance of the show. In fact, the show wouldn't exist without him. The only reason why we couldn't put him higher on this list was because of the boring nature of his character. That being said, rumors have stated tweeted that he might have his own story arc coming up soon, which might turn things around for the little guy. But what do you think? Feel free to let us know in the comments section down below.